How's it going, everybody? This is the Nitty Gritty. My name is Chad. With me, as usual, is Leonard, and this is a show about wrestling. And before we get started with our main topic, I just want to say again, thank you to all of our fans that have stuck with us. There's been a little bit sporadic in terms of our posts. As I've said in an earlier episode, my job situation changed. Therefore, my time to edit and record this show has changed a little bit. But 2024 promises to be another great year for our show, right, Leonard?
So says you.
Okay.
I'll believe it when I see it.
High praise.
No, of course it will be fantastic. It's just getting back into the groove, and we've already talked about future topics that we want to get into that, very much fit our brand. So looking forward to doing some of that over the next few weeks.
Absolutely. So we're going to just do a quick recap of the 2024 WWE Royal Rumble, which had a black cloud hanging over it, I would say, with all the new allegations against Vince McMahon. We could do a whole podcast probably on that topic if we wanted to. I will just say this about it, and that is I find it a little bit disgusting, not just what he did, which it was, but I find it a little bit disgusting that now all of a sudden we're angry at Vince McMahon again. A lot of people, employees of WWE, fans, seem to just, forget that he was a douche canoe, that all these charges and, allegations were made, but he wormed his way back in, and everybody was just like, oh, well, nobody really. And now all of a sudden, worse shit has come out. And now
shit, literally.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. And now all of a sudden, oh, we don't like him. Remember, we don't like him. I find it. I've said it before about wrestling fans. I'm not going to reiterate it here, but goddamn, it's a little bit disgusting. And I don't understand. Like, what were we doing all those months that we just forgot? Like, oh well, it's Vince. We hold others to a higher standard, and we have gotten and canceled other people for a shit less, like a lot less. So I don't know.
Well, I think the cancel culture just hasn't hit wrestling because those people don't watch pro wrestling.
It hit Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, but didn't he do the voiceover for the Rumble?
We'll get there. We'll get there.
So
yeah, we'll get there.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
And even then, I was trying to think of some people in other walks that have, had allegations come out, and some have come back, but not. Look at Louis C.K., for instance, not even close to where he was at one point.
So I'm glad you brought up Louis C.K. because, like, there's an example. Like, his situation was a lot different. He was doing something that was inappropriate, but he had apparently asked said people if he could do that thing, and they didn't maybe want him to, or perhaps he didn't ask permission all the time. I don't know. But in Vince's case, we're talking about sex trafficking. So
yes,
it's just
a little bit different. It's a little bit different. I mean, it's a sex crime, and I guess you start drawing lines and such. But yeah, I mean, and you look at people like Kevin Spacey, who's never recovered, and a few other people. So yeah, I think it is different just because of the mentality of, as you said, wrestling fans and the people who have, and I don't want to get into a political discussion about cancel culture, but the people who do that aren't wrestling fans. So therefore, they don't go after Vince McMahon because they don't know to.
True. Well, that might be changing, but who knows? Maybe.
Yes, now that might be changing as far as knowing to go after him.
Yeah. So hopefully Vince stays away this time. I would imagine.
I think he will because, before when he came back, it was still under his control.
Yeah.
Now TKO owns it.
Yeah, and Ronda Rousey has come out and said that as long as Bruce Pritchard is there, Vince McMahon is still running things.
Yes, not just Rousey. I know I saw that somewhere else. Someone else saying that Bruce is basically Vince's avatar. So
And so that's why I say be on the lookout for more changes behind the scenes staff wise. I would guess. So
yeah.
wait,
Well,
that
Kevin Dunn got
yeah,
booted, and he
yeah,
was there for a million years.
he's gone, and you could tell there were some weird shots at the Rumble. Anyway, um, that was the black cloud hanging over the event, but on with the show. And as Leonard mentioned, Hulk Hogan kind of starts us out with this voiceover. I know that like there's some maybe subtle gearing up to the whole 40 years of Hulkamania thing, but he starts it out here, and WWE is still using him. People still obviously remember comments that he made, behind the scenes, and but yet here he is. And what's weird about this is it starts out you think, oh, this is just like a voiceover from Hogan to start the Rumble. It becomes very like as the event goes on, pretty much just Hogan doing an ad for St. Pete's and Clearwater. Like it's very like that's obviously where he lives,
He
but
lives there, yes.
but it's like it becomes like a tourist ad. It really truly does. So it is quite odd as it goes on. But it was cool being a fan. I have the Hogan.
Great product placement over your shoulder, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah. It was good to see him on TV again, despite the oddness of what that was. So this takes place at Tropicana Field, and it's the third Royal Rumble to take place in the Tampa Bay area, and it took place January 27th of 2024. Your commentators Michael Cole, Corey Graves, and Pat McAfee, who comes out at the beginning. Why they give this guy his own entrance, I do not know.
Because of the crossover potential.
Yeah, they're really desperate to get that crossover audience. The attendance was described as 48,044 fans. And as I said, it takes place from St. Petersburg. So the card only has 4 matches. So let's kind of real fast. The first match is the Women's Royal Rumble, and I'll read off the list of entrants here very quickly, and then we'll talk about the match. You start off with Natalia, returning Naomi, Bailey, Candice LeRae, Jordan Grace, Indy Hartwell, Asuka, Ivy Nile, Katana Chance, Bianca Belair, Kairi Sane, Tegan Knox, Caden Carter, Chelsea Green, Piper Niven, Zia Lee, Zelina Vega, Maxine Dupree, Nia Jax, Shotzi, Becky Lynch, Alba Fire, Shayna Baszler, Valhalla, Michin, Zoe Stark, Roxanne Perez, Jade Cargill, Tiffany Stratton, and Liv Morgan returning.
And there's like 5 or 6 names I have no idea. Sounds like you were just running random letters together.
It's funny you mentioned that. I watched the event with a friend of the show and former 411 colleague Eric Lures, and I'm going to steal one of his lines from the evening, which was, "Some of these names sound AI generated," which they do.
That worked too.
There's some of the like Ivy Nile. I don't watch NXT. I don't watch really WWE's programming. Some of these people, I had no idea who they were. And as oddly enough, Hogan had said in a previous interview, all these people look like they get costumes from the same seamstress, trained by the same people, trained with the same promo style, everything. There's so much.
And I remember I said this last year, and it's the same thing this year. Everything is so uniform. All the women look the same. Either you were wearing blue or you were wearing red, and it looked like a Raw versus SmackDown Rumble almost because of the collar schemes. All the collar schemes are the same. All the hair was the same. Again, everything's the same.
Yeah, and in this case, it might not have been necessarily red or blue, but like it was very similar styles with a lot of the costumes, I would say.
You know who stood out the most, really, was Jordan Grace.
So yeah, that was going to be my first comment. I certainly did not expect to see her. That to me was one of the better surprises of the evening because I have said, I follow her on Instagram, and I have said for a while now, maybe just to myself, or to other wrestling fans, that I think she is a future star. I think that she should be at one of the other companies. TNA is what it is, and they've treated her very well, but she needs to be somewhere else. And
Yeah.
I
Well,
think,
Mickey James was in the Rumble last year from
yeah,
TNA, so that was definitely your connection.
yes,
And I would say someone wanted to take a look at her because of her look and her size, and I guarantee you, Triple H probably wanted to take a look at her.
yeah, no
So
doubt. And he had high
yeah,
praise
I mean,
for her
and
at the,
everybody knew Naomi was coming back,
yeah,
and everyone kind of half figured Cargill was going to show up. So
yeah,
Grace was really the biggest surprise
yes.
of.
Yes, and she got a pretty good reaction considering a lot of people there probably didn't know who she was. But the winner of the Women's Royal Rumble, which I predicted from the very beginning, by the way, was Bayley. And why did I think she was going to win? Well, who else would have
She
won?
was in the Ric Flair slot.
Yeah, and like, but here's the thing:
3.
like, looking at the Women's Royal Rumble so far, they kind of give it to somebody who deserves it and who hasn't won it yet as kind of like a notch in the belt type thing. That's the way I view the
Mhm.
Women's Rumble at this point. We don't view it as, oh man, so and so is ready to be pushed and needs a title shot. It's who hasn't won it that probably should win it. And Bayley was the last of that group, I would say. So
Sure.
she won, and there was maybe some argument when she saw Jade Cargill that she was going to win. I think she's way too green as far as WWE standards go.
Mhm.
So I didn't think that she was going to win, and I
This was to get her up. People cringe when Nia Jax showed up, and Nia Jax gets all these eliminations, but
yeah,
then Cargill eliminates her. So that's Cargill's win.
yeah,
You get to slay the dragon.
and that was an ugly elimination, by the way.
Right.
Um, if any, the people who watched it know that it did not look pretty. But I thought Jade Cargill overall looked pretty good. And the women's rumble was fine. It's just there was a lot of NXT people to pat it out, people that you knew had no chance. And I can't really criticize the rumble for that, I guess, but like there was a lot of people that really, I think
The
the past,
problem is they do 30 women when they don't have 30 women.
yeah, and in the past
Do
they've
50,
had it out with veterans. They can't do that anymore because even
yeah,
veterans are tired of doing it.
yeah. Do 15. Do
Yeah,
20 even. If you look and you chopped out the NXT people, you'd have what, 20 or around there?
less than that maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and then but you add, say you're surprised like Cargill, you're surprised like Grace, you
Oh
could
yeah,
throw it.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so yeah. For them, I don't understand why okay, you do 30 men. Why can't you do less women?
Right, right. Yeah, no, I agree. So that was the women's match. The next match would be for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, a fatal four way. Oh, by the way, the women's Rumble match went 1 hour and 5 minutes, and Bayley would last 1 hour and 3 minutes and 3 seconds. So a good performance from Bayley.
What were the time intervals they were using? Were they doing the 90 seconds or the 2 minutes? They're
I think it was 90 seconds.
okay.
I think it was 90 seconds, but don't quote me on that. So we would have Roman Reigns defending against AJ Styles, LA Knight, and Randy Orton in the fatal four-way match that went 19 minutes and 30 seconds. Roman Reigns would, of course, win. This is, part of my complaint with WWE in general is that you know what's going to happen. There is no surprise factor in any of it, despite the fact that I like a lot of the talent involved in whatever match they're doing. Everybody knew it was going to happen here, and that's a problem. In my opinion, that's a problem. And the match itself was fine. I guess I might go like 3 stars on it. The other guys that were in there were doing their best. I would say.
It surprises me that The Rock didn't show up because he got named to the TKO board of directors. Everybody and their grandma behind the scenes say, "Oh yeah, we're doing Reigns Rock. It's happening."
Yeah,
They don't say when it's happening, but oh yeah, we're doing it. So this was a perfect opportunity. And like you said, it's boring. Everyone knows what's going to happen. Nobody cares. If they want people to talk the next day,
Yeah.
I would have The Rock come out. I would have had him interfere or just stand there and distract Reigns and let, say, LA Knight pin Styles and take the title because that's unexpected.
Yeah.
And you would have set up your Rock Reigns promo and you would have put the belt on someone who has been hot for you in LA Knight.
Mhm.
And you would have set up a great, new, fresh matchup, depending on who would win the Rumble for your WrestleMania. And they don't care who that is because you got Reigns Rock on top.
Yeah, and in my opinion, Roman Reigns and The Rock doesn't need a title. And the fact that if it does happen, the fact that it's being contested for the title basically just confirms that Reigns is going to win, because this is all about at this point. This is all about him Reigns being breaking the next championship record, and the next record is Hogan. It's like
Yeah.
1,474 days, I think.
I
Hogan.
think I heard something he would have to have it after SummerSlam. I think it's between SummerSlam and Survivor Series would be when he hits the mark.
And that's it. To me, it's so silly that that's what we're doing. Like, but yeah, no, I agree. The Rock should have been a part of this, but who was a part of it? Solo Sikoa for the millionth time. Solo Sikoa comes out and interferes. It gets old after a while. It really, really does. So, like I said, I gave the match 3 stars. That might even be a little generous. And Reigns is still your champion. The next match is Logan Paul against Kevin Owens for the WWE United States title, about 14 minutes. And this match was okay, but the finish was shit. It was a finish. It was a disqualification, and Logan Paul won by DQ. I guess I kind of anticipated some sort of chicanery because they
It
weren't.
was a dusty finish since they were in Florida.
Yeah, I knew they weren't going to give it to Owens because Kevin Owens is in a bad spot right now because he's bigger than this title, but probably not good enough to beat Reigns. So
Yeah.
like he's
Well,
kind of stuck.
he and Reigns have done that dance. And you get to the point where Roman Reigns beats a guy 87 times.
Yeah, at the
How,
Rumble,
how do you, yeah. And then how do you spin that again?
right? So yeah, it was a DQ finish here, and like I said, the match itself was okay, but I hated the finish, so I'd go 2.5 stars on that one. And your last match was, of course, the men's Royal Rumble for a world championship shot at WrestleMania 40. And your entrants were Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Grayson Waller, Andrade coming back, Carmelo Hayes, Shinsuke Nakamura, Santos Escobar, Karrion Kross, Dominic Mysterio, Carlito, Bobby Lashley, Ludwig Kaiser, Austin Theory, Finn Balor, Cody Rhodes, Bronson Reed, Kofi Kingston, Gunther Ivar, Braun Breaker, Omos, Pat McAfee, JD McDonough, R-Truth, The Miz, Damian Priest, CM Punk, Ricochet, Drew McIntyre, and Sami Zayn. The winner would be Cody Rhodes, who lasted 43 minutes and 21 seconds. Jey Uso looks like would last the longest. He lasted 50 minutes and 55 seconds. And the some of the notable changes to this Rumble, which have already been reported by everybody at this point, is that Braun Breaker was apparently given the Brock Lesnar spot in this Rumble because Brock Lesnar, due to some of the news and allegations that have come out, was pulled from the event. And I would bet that you won't see him again, at least for a while, if ever. I don't know. But Braun Breaker was given that spot and apparently was kept exactly the same. At least that's what I heard. So, yeah, you have Cody Rhodes win again here. And they, I guess, want to tell you that he's going to finish the story, as has been repeated over and over again over the past couple of
No
years.
one gives a damn about the story at this point.
No, that is correct. And I mean, he pointed at Reigns at the end, so one would think that maybe he's going to go after Reigns again. I think that that's a risk of a main event 2 years in a row, especially considering this is WrestleMania 40, which should be a big deal, right? Um, this Rumble was okay. It wasn't great. I do like the new trend of having kind of a extended match at the end for the two guys left. I think that makes the final elimination mean a little bit more. If this would come down to CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, who had a face-off on Raw, I believe, before this.
Now, you predicted Bayley would win. Did you think Rhodes was going to win?
No, no, I didn't. Actually, I thought Gunther was going to win because knowing that Seth Rollins was injured, I thought the initial plan in my head was they were going to go with Seth Rollins against CM Punk, and I knew they were never going to give CM Punk the belt at WrestleMania. So I was like, okay, Seth Rollins is going to win that match on night one, say. But once Seth Rollins got injured, I thought maybe they'll go with somebody like Gunther based on stuff that happened on Raw, and they'll have Gunther win that match. But Gunther didn't win. He was third, I believe, and so it came down to CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes won. So it shows that they still have a lot of faith in Cody Rhodes. So we'll see what happens, because I don't think anything has been officially announced. I don't know if they're still waiting on The Rock to confirm his involvement or not. I don't know what's happening there. I suppose we won't know until it happens. But Andrade also returned here. Everybody kind of knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Charlotte Flair is injured right now, but she was at the event. I saw some backstage footage of her helping him get ready. And, so he's back.
Nobody cares.
Exactly. He, didn't get over his first run. He didn't get over in AEW. I don't know what would be different now, but we'll see. I suppose at least he's with his wife. So I'm trying to think. It starts out with Jimmy and Jay, which was pretty cool, I guess. I'm sure that's a match.
Well, it's the demolition spot. It's
Yeah.
it's the brothers or the tag partners, whoever against each other. I just looked at the results before I kind of got the cliff notes of everything and saw clips and such. And I just looked at it and went, man, that is the most boring damn pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That I could think of.
Yeah, it was.
Watch.
It was a very mediocre pay-per-view. 4 matches total. Which to me, Royal Rumble is always like a little bit shorter of a card. I get that. But this felt like, I don't know, there really wasn't much to it at all. And based on the winner, I don't want to say it went off badly, but I think when you saw that Cody won, everybody, and there was no Rock involved, people were just kind of like, eh. I mean, that was my reaction anyway. And Pat McAfee gets in and does the Jerry Lawler spot, kind of, I thought was really bizarre because Pat McAfee has had matches. So, I don't understand why he would get in and play the chicken shit. I don't get it.
Well, it was a Drew Carey spot. He eliminated himself because he got spooked. Yeah, right. I didn't get that either.
Yes, more appropriately, the Drew Carey spot.
the Drew Carey spot, yes.
So, yeah, I mean, and we'll see what happens with Cody Rhodes. The big news, of course, is that CM Punk got injured in the Rumble match. This was his first televised match back. He has had house show matches with Dominic Mysterio, at least one, I think. But this was his first actual match back, and he gets injured right away. And I have to chuckle a little bit because we talked about that on this show.
Yeah.
And
he is old. He is beat up. He's physically done. Another thing too, and like I said, I watched kind of the cliff notes and a few other podcasts talk about it, and he was blown up by the time Sammy came in at 30, he was blown up.
Yeah, he was. And I'm not going to tell CM Punk what to do, but I mean, he's had at least 3 significant injuries in 3 years.
Yeah.
And at this point, you would, I think, question whether or not it's worth it to continue. I mean, despite what anybody thinks of his backstage behavior or his attitude overall as a person, he's clearly older and more injury prone. And you've heard other wrestlers, um, such as Bryan Danielson and Mick Foley in years past, talk about how the longer they go, they realized it took a lot less to injure them more often.
Yeah.
And I would just guess that that's what's happening to CM Punk right now. So, I don't know. This was, I think, one of his last few big chances to have a significant match on a significant card. So, anything's possible. I'm sure he'll try to come back again. But yeah, I mean, we both kind of said that this would happen. So.
Yeah, and I don't know what the time frame is, but if I was him, I would hold off, or I was WWE, I would hold off and try to build a retirement match at 41. He's the kind of guy that wants to go out the way he wants to go out.
Right.
So, figure out what that can be. I mean, look at Undertaker. He kept coming back WrestleMania every year and basically only was able to do that because it would take him a year to heal before he could do something else.
Yeah, a year to heal and a year to get ready. Right.
Yeah, for the next match, his last 5 or 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let Punk have a send off. Again, I would not be surprised if he just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing until he just can't push it until they tell him no, you're done.
Right. So yeah, overall, I thought the pay-per-view, premium live event, was quite mediocre overall. I might give it a C. It was what it was. Bayley, you could say she deserves that spot. Cody Rhodes, again, I think like Leonard, I don't know how many people really give a shit about the story at this point, because everybody, this is another thing I'm going to steal from Eric. Everybody that Cody faces has to have some like untold Dusty story. Like everybody has some relationship with Dusty that Cody finds just shocking. So yeah, I mean, how often can you do that? But we'll see.
Well, considering that Dusty, was around for a very long time, working with a lot of the up and comers through NXT and such. What we're going to find out? We're going to find out that Roman Reigns is really Dusty's son.
Yeah, it'd be a Jason Jordan angle.
Yeah.
So yeah, let me know what you thought of this event. If you agree or disagree, please let me know. How's it going, everybody? This is the Nitty Gritty. My name is Chad. With me, as usual, is Leonard, and this is a show about wrestling. And this, I would say, is another edition of Segment Surgery, because we are going to be talking basically about the most recent and most talked about segment on WWE SmackDown as we record this. This past Friday, it happened February 2nd. And I do not watch SmackDown, but certainly this clip came across my social media accounts pretty fast, as I'm sure it did all the wrestling fans out there watching. And that is that Cody Rhodes is giving up his WrestleMania spot, so to speak, to The Rock. And this instantly set a lot of fans into a frenzy, and I don't know what the count is now. I know earlier this week, the segment that WWE released of this part of SmackDown had the most dislikes of any WWE YouTube video in history. It was over 500,000 dislikes at one point. It's probably north of that.
Yeah.
Well, now, but that statistic did surprise me a little bit. So let's break down. We're not going to break down the segment necessarily. We'll talk a little bit about it. And then we'll break down the reactions and kind of what's happening now. And so the segment, you have Roman Reigns coming out doing his thing with Paul Heyman. Cody eventually interrupts and goes into his Cody character talking.
Let me say real quick here 2 things. One, the video is like more than 18 minutes, like the segment, and more than half of it is just entrances.
Yeah.
And the other thing is Cody's catchphrases of finishing the story and what do you want to talk about are like the two lamest catchphrases.
Yeah, so the finishing the story, the finishing the story one, even though I agree with Leonard fully, I do not care for it, has caught on in a
It
way
has.
is somewhat irritating. Um,
Mhm.
but he comes out and talks about the title and how this is the title that Bruno had and his dad had in his hands, and that's the title he wants. And even though Seth Rollins, who had been on Raw after the Rumble, was making points about how the title that Seth Rollins has is the workhorse title, and that's the one that he wants Cody to go for. Um, but he being Cody wants Roman Reigns, and so that's basically what you have. And he said, but not at WrestleMania. And he's been talking to people, getting advice, and he talked to somebody that Roman knows very well. Yada yada. Out comes The Rock, and he and Cody shake hands. So before we get to the aftermath as it stands now, let's just talk about I'll talk about my initial reaction to this.
Mhm.
And my initial reaction to this was that I didn't think it made much sense. And the reason I didn't think it made much sense is because you have Cody coming out saying all these things about how he wants this title and he wants to finish the story, and keeps talking about how his dad had it in his hands and all this kind of stuff. But then he's like, but not now. Like, there's really
But
no.
like when
What's that?
we're gonna do it at Backlash.
Yeah, like there's really no reason for him to give up this shot other
Yeah.
than, well, The Rock is here and he wants to be involved now. And the big problem with this, and I think one of the reasons why, not just because of the way this segment was presented, made fans angry, but we've been talking about The Rock and Roman Reigns now for probably half a decade. And
Mhm.
it hasn't happened. The Rock's a movie star. We get all that. Now The Rock is free. His takeover of DC didn't go as he wanted it to, so he has a little bit more time. So now here he is, and guess what? This is what happens. So obviously, The Rock and Roman Reigns is a big match. Nobody's going to debate that point, but obviously Cody has a lot of fans in WWE. I don't know. It's also tough to me. Like, I understand a lot of people like Cody Rhodes, and I like him too to a certain degree. I don't dislike him, but like, it's kind of tough for me to get behind a guy and root for a guy who in AEW said, "Oh, I'm not going to go for the big title. I'm not going to put myself in that position." And now wins the Royal Rumble twice and is like, "Nah, I'm not going to go for the title." Like, but I really want it. I really do want it.
Then go for
Yeah. So
it.
that was my initial reaction to it. Leonard, your
You,
thought?
I said on the video when we talked about the Rumble was I don't think anyone cares about Cody finishing the story,
Not
and
anymore.
I think not anymore. And I think the reaction isn't so much pro Cody as it is anti Rock. Everyone seems to be backing Cody, but it always seems to be couched in, well, if I got a choice, I'd rather have it be Cody than The Rock.
Right.
And everyone, their grandma has wanted The Rock versus Roman Reigns, as you said, for like half a decade, if not more. But the sentiment now seems to be, well, not now and not in this way.
Right. And like, I think that kind of, when wrestling fans want dream matches, I can say this. I didn't write wrestling at 411 very much, but I certainly was, reading the articles, talking with the writers and in the forums, and the dream matches that people want, wrestling fans are very fickle, so they tend to get tired of those dream matches quicker than you would think. Like, for years,
Yeah.
they wanted the Undertaker and Sting. By the time Sting ended up in WWE, not nearly as many people wanted to see that match. And the same could be said for Austin and Hogan. By the time Hogan was there and ready to go, how many people really wanted to see it? You know,
Mhm.
it's so that's I think the same could be said for The Rock and Roman Reigns. We wanted it for a while, but The Rock wasn't around, and now it's like, well, I don't know if we want it, as you said, in this way.
Yeah, and another thing is The Rock, I think, has burned up through all of his goodwill. You mentioned the DC debacle with him and Black Adam. He hasn't had a hit movie in a while,
Right.
including Black Adam. The Young Rock TV show plummeted in ratings during the third season.
Right.
That American Gladiators type show he had, which I don't remember what that was called, that lasted, a season. The XFL would have folded if he didn't merge with the USFL.
Right.
He got placed on the TKO board, and a lot of people are seeing this as Rock using that sway now to get this what he wants to put himself in back in the limelight.
Right.
And if you go back and you look, like the whole Blutista era debacle, when he came back, won the Rumble, nobody wanted that.
Right.
And right now, and again, depending on when this goes up, they haven't pivoted yet. A lot of people think that they're going to pivot. I saw a very interesting theory that I don't think they would do is that Rock and Roman Reigns would have a contract signing for WrestleMania, and then Cody would come out and say, hey, I tricked you. You're going to face The Rock on night one, and I'm going to face you on night two, or vice versa.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, that is a good segue into the next part of this discussion which is what is the plan? And so there are different theories as to the plan. One of the major theories that I've seen is that if we go back to WrestleMania 30, the Daniel Bryan movement was very much not a planned thing. And
yes, that was a pivot.
Right, and they had to pivot because people were pissed for too many times. They were upset about what was going on, and they showed it, and so they had to pivot. That wasn't planned. Some people believe that they are trying to do that kind of groundswell, homegrown movement with Cody, and on the thing is about this one is this is planned. They think that this is planned approach to the WrestleMania event. In my opinion, I guess he could come like, I don't know, if he just came out and was like, "Oh, I tricked you," or "I changed my," like what are we doing? But but I would say that if they are going to then reinsert Cody into the WrestleMania main event, I would be more welcoming to it if it was Roman is going to wrestle on two nights. If it's Roman wrestling on two nights, I could get behind that. Like they have some room to convince me that that's a good idea. However, I do not want to see a triple threat match with Cody, The Rock, and Roman Reigns. That sounds
no. That will end with The Rock defeating Cody.
Right, or Cody defeating. Well, yeah, yeah.
Cody's not beating The Rock.
Yeah, no, yeah, it wouldn't be.
In that scenario, it would somehow wind up with Cody pinning Paul Heyman and winning.
Yeah,
like one of those old WCW. You somehow pin the manager and win.
Right, and I will say there's clearly an ulterior motive, because today, as we record this, the most recent news regarding this whole thing is that The Rock was on the Pat McAfee show and basically was playing The Rock character. See, here's the thing with The Rock being a movie star. We know now what his real persona is like, what he actually is like as a human being. The Rock is a pretty nice guy, in everything you see. He's a really nice, down-to-earth guy. So when you see him on the Pat McAfee show calling Cody Rhodes fans Cody crybabies and saying that, he and Roman is the biggest WrestleMania match in history, The Rock is playing The Rock at this point. He's not playing Dwayne Johnson. So if he's mentioning Cody fans being crybabies, clearly there's a plan in place. But for me, they have more of an uphill battle. For a lot of fans, I would say if Cody just gets reinserted, those fans might be happy. But for me, they have an uphill battle from Cody going, I'm going to step aside, to now being pushed back in. I guess if the plan is they're going to have the fans kind of root for him to go back in, there's this whole hashtag movement on X, Twitter, We want Cody or something of that nature. I suppose if they're going that route, maybe that's what their plan is to get him back in it. I think it's weird. It still leaves Seth Rollins without an opponent. So, but yeah, so
yeah, and consider too the injury to CM Punk and the implications against Brock Lesnar takes two prime pieces off your chessboard.
yeah, absolutely. The Brock thing, as far as not having him at WrestleMania, is it a loss? Sure. Is it a big loss? I don't know that it is anymore. Actually, I mean, he's a star. The Gunther Brock match would have been cool if that's the route they were planning on going. I don't know, but overall, Brock has his kind of
The Brock and Rock connection. That's what they need to do.
I would buy that shirt for sure. Well,
Yeah.
maybe not now. Yeah, the Brock Lesnar second revival type thing has kind of run its course. I would say. He lost to Roman Reigns like 20 times, so it's like basically just random matches you insert him in. So yeah, I mean, but the card is taking hits. Seth is injured, CM Punk is injured, Brock is out. So and then you still have this overhanging black cloud of the Vince stuff. So they have to find something to pivot to, and I'm interested to see where it goes, because any way you slice it, if it's the Rock versus Roman Reigns is winning. So you got to have some sort of suspense there for fans. I don't think, even though it's a big match, I don't think anybody is going to look at The Rock winning that match. So then what would you do? Would you have, like, The Rock and Roman Reigns is the bigger match on paper? Is that night one? Like, that's crazy if it's night one, because then night two would be Cody and Roman Reigns, with Cody getting his big moment, I guess, right?
Yeah. I think you would do night one for the title and Cody wins, and then night two is for the head of the table. Kind of like how when Reigns and Undertaker wrestled, it was for the yard.
I hate that, by the way. Oh my God.
The streak was over, so he couldn't defend the streak. He was defending his yard.
Yeah.
I'm doing air quotes for those listening and not watching on YouTube. So just like that match, it would be for the head of the table. I think that's how you do it.
And I would get behind that, because, as I've said many times, I do not think The Rock and Roman Reigns needs the title. I actually think the title hurts it, because I think there's more suspense as to who would win if the title is not involved.
Yes, and especially if Reigns loses to Cody on night one, there is such a vulnerability there that I think you would have the anticipation that Rock could win.
Right. And you know what? If it is night one, that would be interesting, because I'm going to night one. I have gotten tickets to night one so far with from me and my daughter. She's very excited, and I haven't decided yet if I'm going to night two. There's some possibility of that. Obviously, this is not a cheap
Is night one? I would say, is night one cheaper than night two, or is it the same price?
I don't know that for sure, but I would bet that it's a tad cheaper, because obviously people expect the bigger thing to happen on night two. On Sunday night, that is that's the big event. You
said you're taking your daughter. You have two twins, right?
I do, yeah. I have twins, and one of them.
So you're taking the favorite.
No, well, I love all my kids equally, but one of them really likes to watch wrestling with me. The other one will be around to watch the Royal Rumble, sorta. So that's kind of how that goes. So I had, we try in my house to do the, daddy-daughter days where I can spend some time with them one-on-one, and
yeah, that's a great thing to do.
I've taken Juliet, my daughter, to a few wrestling events so far, a couple AEW events, but she's not been to a WWE event yet. So
how old is she?
She's 9.
9. That's going to be a heck of a sensory overload for her. Let me tell you,
it's going to be a long day.
we took my oldest niece Lakin when she was probably about that age to a Raw, and every time there was pyro, we had to cover her ears because she was not having it, So
Yeah.
it'll be a fun experience at least.
Absolutely. It's going to be a long day. And, I was at one of the WrestleManias in New York, New Jersey. And, I mean, it's a crazy, crazy event. So, anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. It's not going to make me tune into Raw and SmackDown from start to finish. But, a lot of people I know simply watch the clips on social media anyway. So, bigger deal, I guess. So, anyway, let us know what you thought of the Rock and Cody situation, where you think it might be going. So, breaking news as we're recording this show, initially not aware of this, that the WrestleMania 40 kickoff show was actually happening as we were recording our episode. And normally, I guess that would be a non-news item, but in this case, it was very much a news item. The WWE is trying to, over the past couple of years, utilize social media and the scrums, the post-event scrums, and the pre-event, things similar to the way a UFC or boxing does. They're trying to do that more and more, and so the one that is happening as we're recording our show was the kickoff show, and lo and behold, Cody apparently has shifted gears and made his decision that he wants to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. And that match, has been made official. And what happened at the kickoff show was interesting in that Cody was cutting a promo on Roman Reigns on the bloodline, and, how the match would just be for the head of the table, and basically, tearing that whole storyline a new one, and mentioned High Chief Peter Maivia, who is The Rock's father, obviously, or I'm sorry, grandfather. Yes, Rock's grandfather, and that made The Rock mad, and The Rock slapped Cody, and then there was a backstage incident where The Rock and Roman Reigns mainly The Rock, were pissed at Triple H about how the whole segment went down. Again, trying to make it look like it's real. So, I understand why we're doing Cody versus Roman. That's the Rumble winner versus the champion. That's the main event. I get that. What is confusing to me is why on SmackDown Cody was stepping aside so that The Rock could face Roman Reigns, and now
exactly, that's the number one question I had.
I don't understand that, and I if they were going to do this kind of grassroots support system for Cody, one would assume that would take more time than less than a week. But this is what they're doing now. It seems like The Rock and Roman Reigns are joined, so to speak. It seems like maybe they're more on the same side. How did that happen so quickly? There's a lot of questions I have, and some of those questions may be answered in the weeks to come. I don't know. But the way this was done in under a week's time, to me, was very awkward and confusing. It's almost as if they weren't sure how to handle things, because it's like, well, we expect everybody to want The Rock and Roman Reigns, but wait, now they don't. So now we got to go back to what we did before. So will The Rock be involved in WrestleMania now? Probably not. I don't know. Who knows? But I guess we'll see what happens. There are no more kickoff specials as far as I'm aware. So, Leonard, so what are your thoughts on the whole segment?
Well, and let's mention too, which you have not mentioned for good reason, Seth Rollins was there and did nothing.
Yeah. Oh, yes, you're right.
Stood there. My favorite line, Roman Reigns said, "We all know you're wearing your wife's shoes," and I think that's true. I'm pretty sure Seth Rollins raids Becky's closet before he goes out. So here's the worst idea ever. Let's do Rock and Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes.
I mean, what company was it? TNA that would do some of these weird tag matches where both belts were on the line and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah. And if Team A won, Team B won, yeah, yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that. That's the worst idea ever. Or how about this? Let's do Rock and Roman and whichever Usos on that side. I don't know. Versus Triple H and Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis.
That's
Because they came out because at the back there towards the end it was Pearce and Triple H and Aldis, and I was like, that's a pretty good stable right there. Like that's a pretty good trios team
that
right
would be
there.
interesting to see. I mean, certainly Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, I think, can still go unless Adam Pearce has an injury I'm not aware of. Triple H is basically like Randy the Ram from the Wrestlers.
Yeah,
You know, as far as
he can stand on the apron. He can come in, hit a spine buster in the pedigree, and be the end of it. But yeah, that's the number one thing that makes sense to me is Cody Rhodes coming out and saying, "Oh, I've made my decision." Blah blah blah. I'm like, dude, you already made your decision.
right,
Like, if you want to say, "Hey, I changed my mind," or what have you, okay. But to just come out and say, "Okay, I'm doing this now," and not even acknowledging that he basically gave it up for The Rock and walked out before is extremely confusing.
right,
And you kind of have this dichotomy of Roman Reigns saying, "Okay, I'm picking my opponent. I'm picking The Rock," and Rhodes saying, "No, no, you can't do that." Well, if you've stepped aside already,
right,
it's almost like you gave up your shot. I won the Rumble, but I'm giving it up.
right.
So that's the most confusing aspect to it. And even though we talked about they needed to do some sort of pivot, this is a very awkward pivot, and it is also very fast.
Yeah,
A great thing about the segment is Rock came out there in heel Rock mode. This was like Hollywood heel Rock mode,
yeah,
and you could tell.
yeah.
And he did cut a great promo. I think I loved how he played off the crowd. I loved how they were doing the Watt chants, but he let them do it. Like he purposely built his cadence so they could do the Watt chants.
Yeah,
Just excellent work from him here. And I think he did a lot to kind of rebuild, because I know we were talking earlier about he had kind of ate up a lot of his goodwill. And that was a hot crowd too for like a kickoff event. And
yeah.
the fact that they did it in the arena with everybody, they were hot, which was great. And Rock really, and kudos to him, because we know, for example, say a Hulk Hogan or a John Cena wouldn't have went heel. It would be
Not
damned
so quickly like that. No.
not so quickly. It would be damned torpedo. So the fact that Rock figured it out and went, okay, we'll go heel, and how he still kind of like it's now more, instead of being mad at Roman, it's like a pride thing between the two of them wanting to go into the ring against each other.
Right.
So, and how they're unified by family. As you know, I was always a huge fan of the TV show Dallas.
Yeah.
And J.R. Ewing was always a jerk to everybody else, including his own family. But if
Right.
someone else came after Brother Bobby, he was on him.
Right.
Like, I can do it, but you can't. And that's kind of what this feels like. And I think that works as a character trait and as a setup for whatever we wind up getting.
Right.
So I'm still not against the idea of doing the two, having Roman wrestle on both nights. I don't know what they're going to do yet. So what they might be doing, and this would be kind of not a good look if they did, is, well, let's go back and let's see what the reaction is over the next 7 days.
Right.
And if it's not good, we'll switch again. Which you got to figure it out. And end of the month, was it the 25th? Is the which premium live event is that?
So
is that Chamber?
I was going to mention that the next one is in Perth, Australia. It's the Elimination Chamber.
Okay.
And I wonder if they're going to utilize The Rock there. I know that's probably sounds like a long shot because he is The Rock, but I mean, certainly it seems like they're hinting towards. I mean, he said literally to Cody Rhodes, "Now you and I have a problem." So one would assume something would happen there. Maybe it's just going to happen via promos on SmackDown. Who knows? But that is the next event. So
Okay, well, it'd be very interesting to see what they do there. That could be a way you can move the belt off of Roman without him actually losing it.
Right,
To Cody, maybe you do a unification. Cody wins the belt in Perth, and then him and Rollins do a unification,
right.
maybe at WrestleMania, and you still get Rock and Roman. There's a lot of things that they could do. The most important thing to mention here is that this situation has put, I think, more eyes on the product and more people talking about it than it has in an extremely long time.
Yeah,
And not to
for
be,
better or worse, a lot of people are paying attention
yeah,
to what they're doing.
and not to be that guy, but over the past, say, 2 weeks, I've heard very, very little about AEW, anything that they're doing.
Well, yeah. So right now, AEW is like, I mean, they got off a pay-per-view, and they're prepping for Sting's last match, which is at Revolution at the beginning of March, March 3rd. And so they're like, and until this past Wednesday, they were playing it kind of cool and low. But he being Tony Khan announced on Wednesday. I forget the date of it. There's going to be a special show, not a pay-per-view. In Boston
Oh,
called
yeah.
Big Business, and you know, one would assume that at the very least, Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné will be debuting either there or pretty soon. The other free agent that's on the market right now is Okada. Um,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I
Yeah.
know, nobody knows where he's going. So yeah, I mean, right now it's WrestleMania season, right? So all the eyes are on WWE, as would be expected. I think,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I think AEW
I
is trying to be consistent, and we'll
mhm.
see how they try to counter program some of all this stuff. But yeah, right
Mhm.
now, I mean, nothing Tony Khan does is going to trump The Rock. So
Mhm.
it is what it is.
True. So yeah, I did see a Facebook post mentioning Mercedes Monet. Someone saying, "What is Volkswagen Credit Union doing in the Impact Zone?" Which I think would be a great name. And while we're here, you know about the Scott D'Amore situation since I name dropped TNA.
I mean, I know he's out.
Yeah.
I believe his title was president. Um,
Yeah, from
but
what I was reading,
he's out.
he tried to buy the company from Anthem. That he made an offer. He had a backing of some financial backer, and they said no. And of course, with that being the situation, it was like both sides knew we have to cut ties here because I think the initial report was that he had been fired, where more it was he made the offer and we knew if they weren't going to take it, what the outcome would be. It's them mutually parting ways. So I have not watched a lot of TNA recently, although I really want to because I've heard that Dale Moore has done a lot of great things over there.
Right.
And also the fact that a lot of people who are there now are looking to leave because they were committed and loyal to Dale Moore.
Yeah, I mean,
So I don't know where he might wind up. I mean, I'm not sure what other player is out there. I mean, Khan's got Ring of Honor. I don't think he's going to hand that off to him. Um, what would be the next down would be what MLW. I don't know what their situation is. So, but I would be very interested to see where he goes now and who might come with him.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of it's an interesting situation. So I didn't know part of what you said there. I had heard rumors of why he got released. Some people, one of the rumors floating around was that maybe he had done something he shouldn't have. Um, be it of a criminal nature. Um,
Yes, and I think that was all coming off of the Vince McMahon stuff. That was some things I was reading that the people who were saying that was thinking, oh well, hey, if this had just happened with Vince, maybe this is why he's going.
the Nick
Uh,
Talismans of the world were I think really pushing hard on that particular
mhm.
rumor. And what you said makes much more sense. And yeah, I mean, I don't watch TNA. I wish I had time to do that because I've heard really good things over the past couple years of what he's doing, and I know that, like you said, the morale there is not very high now because he's gone. And we just saw Jordy and Grace at the Royal Rumble, and they, I guess, have good ties with WWE. They've done
Mhm.
stuff years ago with the AEW, so I assume that relationship is stable. If
Mhm.
if non-existent right now, I assume it's still like healthy. But so yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to happen now? This could be a very big uh, turning point for the company, and we'll see if some of the stars leave and where he goes. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, he has obviously has a good mind for the business, and people seem to like him. So I hope he ends up somewhere that utilizes his skills.
What do you feel about NXT?
I have not watched NXT in a very long time.
Mm.
Shawn Michaels is the guy there.
Yeah.
I doubt that Triple H is going to move Shawn Michaels out of there. Maybe he would be brought in to help somebody like Shawn Michaels, but
Mhm.
um, NXT could use anything, in my opinion, right now because to me it's not good.
Okay. Well, good. That just came up, so I thought to mention. But yeah, I mean, and this is one of those things. Going back to the situation with WWE, it seems to be changing all the time, and I do like the fact that they're using alternate methods like this kickoff show, like The Rock's appearance on Pat McAfee show, to kind of progress the characters and storylines. Back in the day, everything was done on the A show. If you missed
Right.
the A show, you missed what was happening. Now, like you said, you got to check out the X feeds, the Facebook,
Yep.
the Instagram, the podcast appearances. You've got to keep an eye on all this stuff, and that is and that's smart because you
It
want
is.
your eyes on the product at all times.
Yeah. You gotta utilize what the fans are utilizing, and I know a lot of people that just watch clips of the shows and
Yeah.
watch stuff on social media. So if you're doing that and you're doing it right, it's gonna have eyes on your product. And right now, WrestleMania season is upon us and really coming in fast. So it'll be interesting to see what the rest of the card looks like as well. I'm anxious to see what they
Mhm.
do with Seth, and we know what Bailey's doing now, but
Yeah.
it'll be
Well,
interesting.
Gunther's another one because they were talking Gunther Brock. So see, and he's a star in the making. I mean,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
within the next 2-3 years, he's in the main event. He's winning the Rumble, getting in the main event. I would be unless something really big happens next year. I say he wins the Rumble and gets to the main event. But
Yeah, I can see that.
you never know.
So yeah, we'll see what happens, and who knows if maybe we'll be able to convince Leonard to watch Elimination Chamber. We'll see. We'll see what mood
I
he's.
believe that's going to be on at a weird time here in the U.S.
Oh,
So
you're right. No, you're right because it is Australia. Yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, I could watch it, later on. We'll see how that weekend shakes out for me.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, and let us know what you thought of the kickoff show in the comments, and what you think of the rest of our opinions about the whole Cody Rock Roman situation. Check out our other episodes, segment surgery, what's that card, stupid questions, random match reviews. We're available wherever you listen to podcasts. For Leonard, my name is Chad, and we will see you next time.